Boy, you guys sure come up with some good questions. Well, let's talk a little bit about the history of the Bible. We talked about the history of Egypt last week, and now the Bible, because that's the questions about, like, why were the Israelites captive in Egypt and so forth. Well, basically, it's the same thing that's going on in the Mideast now. They've always been at war with each other, and I guess it's kind of a hobby with them. I hate to say that, but they do so much of it. First of all, let's do talk about how the Bible came to be. In the original days, why, it was done with a cantor. Now, a cantor was a man that the priests appointed to recite the holy, as you would call them, scriptures today, the holy words. And they had to do it, as Jesus said, without changing one jot or one tittle. And what that meant was they finally figured out a way to sort of sing-song it, sort of at the same way and in the same absolute tone, you might say. But the important thing about it was that allowed it to be brought forth from the original without too much change. I'm sure there was some change from time to time, had to be, because that's just the way we are with language. But down the road, at the time before Jesus, they had started using Greek as the international language. For instance, today, if you travel much in foreign countries, you'll find that almost everyone has at least a smattering of the English language. And today, American English in particular has become more or less a universal international language. And in those days, it was the Greek. Well, they started writing in Greek. Oh yeah, there's still some scrolls that were written in Hebrew, and there are those that have been discovered recently, the Nag Hammadi Library, the Dead Sea Scrolls. These have all kind of verified some of the writings. And they put them in there. And for instance, let's use some of the translation. After the Greek Bible, the German Bible was the next, or I'm sorry, the Latin Bible was the next translation, so to speak. And I use that so to speak because that was where a lot of rewriting started. And then they translated it into German, and from German especially into English and other languages. So many people, especially Baptist religious sect, will tell me they honor only the King James version of the Bible because it's the right version. Well, I use a Greek version, interesting enough, because the Greek, some of the translations into these various Bibles are not so great. For instance, in Mark, and this is where a lot of the writing started, and you must remember that Mark wrote a lot of these letters to the Romans, Corinthians, and various people around the countryside in his own language, which was Greek. Not that he was Greek, he was Hebrew, but he was a tax collector before he became Paul. He was Saul, and they had to speak Greek as well, and that was an easier language to write in. So he wrote a lot of those letters in Greek. And also in the Bible, one of the quotes they talk about Jesus is, he said that he came to give you the truth, and the truth would set you free. But at another time he said, I came not with a cloth or a pen, but a sword. Now why did he say that? Because he knew he was going to get resistance, that's why. And he knew that because they were under the Roman Empire rule at that time, they had to be very, very careful, but he was going to be kind of a rabble-raiser. Not as much as John the Baptist, but still a rabble-raiser. So Jesus' words were requoted. Let's go back to Paul. Paul wrote that different things, faith, hope, charity, and love, But a lot of people after that, they put fear and they say you need to be God-fearing. No, you would never need to be God-fearing. God-loving. Jesus referred to God as the Father. And would we ever fear our Father? I guess if he was a drunk, and there goes that alarm again, a drunk and rotten type of person, yeah. But God is not anything rotten. He's the world's, the universe. He's the greatest. God loved you. That's why you were created. And we love God. I'll finish this up next week. And there's a lot more to the interpretations of the Bible. But I want to thank you for allowing me to share a little of the little I know. God bless you all.